Good morning, Sprocket.
Hey, Chubbsy. How are you doing on this fine Friday?
I'm actually doing pretty well. I got the Shot Business Journal for the Shot Show in the mail the other day, and typically I don't really go through it much due to the fact that I live in California, and every weapon and firearm that's in there I can't own. But I did find that American Tactical is introducing an over/under shotgun for turkey hunting, and it got me pretty excited. So I've been digging into that a little bit. It's they've got everything, 12, 20, and 410. So not that I need to buy another shotgun, but we know that in the near future that I will be buying a new shotgun. That's just pretty interesting that a tactical company is coming out with a turkey gun. I'm digging it.
Al, I'm in a huge dilemma because I've purchased two new turkey guns in the last 3 years. And my newest one is the Rete 20 gauge, and I really, really like it. And I have it all. I mean, it's all set, ready to go. I have a Vortex red dot on it. I have a Jebs choke on it. I have some custom 20 gauge TSS loads for it. I'm going to do a rattle can homemade paint job on the stock because I went with all black thinking that I was going to have it Cerakoted and then dipped in Badlands Approach. However, I'm really starting to become attracted to an over and under. And I'm also curious about the onset popularity of the 28 gauge. We spoke about that in a recent episode. And I believe my future is going to shift to a 28 gauge over and under, which would give me the ability to run a tighter choke on one barrel and then a more open choke on the second barrel. So I don't have to worry about having that TSS tight pattern at 15, 10 yards if a bird comes in that close. It's in the works. It's not going to be this year, but I am seriously looking at it. And then the last piece of that is my entire life, I have always been enamored by the over and under. I have never owned one. My dad used to have a Charles Daly over and under, and I believe it was a 12 gauge. I'm not sure if he still has it. If he does have it, I would entertain the idea of snagging it from him and maybe hunting with it for a season, but I do not have the desire to hunt with the 12 gauge turkey wise. I don't want to hunt with a 12 gauge anymore. But if my dad still has that Charles Daly, that's a simple solution for the interim.
The 28 gauge, it's interesting because I hadn't really paid attention to it until we talked to Mitchell and Mark over at Dead End Game Calls. And I went back through some old emails, and I was surprised at how many times the 28 gauge was mentioned. So I started looking at it and I thought, that's a pretty cool looking firearm. And for what it's used for, oh boy, it's a nice medium between the 20 and the 410. I'm like, oh, and of course I'm with you. I've never owned an over under, but I've loved the look of them. I love how they function. And I'm looking at this one in this magazine. And I'm like, that's pretty nice. So again, mine's not going to be this year either, but I'm definitely looking at it.
I'm looking at in the future, if I wait long enough, someone is going, maybe they're already out there. I have not researched over and unders yet in the turkey community. I'm assuming that we're going to have a short barrel over and under hit the market for us and potentially have the option of multiple gauges in that over and under. I would prefer to have a shorter barrel rather than the full length barrel that most over and unders are right now. Be what it is, I prefer toting that shorter barrel through the woods when I'm turkey hunting.
And you do a lot more movement and hiking than most, where, some of these guys that are, walking 100 yards to a blind, they're not going to care. When you're hiking 4 miles back to go turkey hunting, that makes a difference. It catches on branches, it gets in the way, and it's heavier. So yeah, I'm with you.
I do, Al. I 100% prefer to run and gun, and having that shorter barrel is nice.
Who do Sprocket and Chubbs rely on for our optics needs? Vortex Optics. Binoculars, rifle scopes, rangefinders, and more, Vortex offers premium products that are an investment in your hunting future.
Their customers are at the center of everything they do. Their VIP warranty, where the VIP stands for Very Important Promise, means if your Vortex product becomes damaged or defective, they will repair or replace it at no charge to you. For all your optics needs, visit vortexoptics.com. The king of adjustable pin archery sights, HHA Sports is home of the Tether Rise 2-pin slider. Featuring a fixed secondary pin and secondary yardage marker, the Tether Rise allows you to adjust your aiming point at full draw. With a silky 2.1 inches of travel, the Tether Rise features the longest sight tapes they have ever built for unmatched long-range accuracy. HHA sights are proudly made in the USA and carry a 100% lifetime warranty. Find out more at hhasports.com or visit your local archery dealer today. Are you looking for the best camouflage apparel and hunting packs on the planet? Badlands lives and breathes technology, performance, and quality. Sprocket and Chubbs love the innovative hunting apparel in the Approach and Approach FX camouflage patterns. There is apparel and a Badlands backpack for every hunting style. Badlands also offers their legendary unconditional lifetime warranty. To find out more, visit badlandsgear.com. When you think Latitude Outdoors, you think saddle hunting. Latitude Outdoors is fueled by creativity and obsessed with the details. And their saddles are made right here in the USA. As far as we're concerned, Latitude Outdoors makes the very best hunting saddles on the market. High quality gear that is safe, comfortable, and simply fun to hunt from. There's a Latitude Outdoors saddle for every size and shape hunter out there. Want to learn more about saddle hunting? Go to latitudeoutdoors.com and have fun.
Well, speaking of turkey hunting, our guest today is not shy to turkey hunting, and he's not shy at all, to be honest with you. He might tell you he is, but I'm excited due to the fact that I met this gentleman 3 years ago on a Badlands Ops hunt, and it was going for pigs, and if you wanted to go for turkey, you could go for turkey. And I was ready to go for pigs. And then I met Rusty. Now, Rusty Drew is a good friend of mine, and I am happy to have him on the podcast with us today. Rusty, welcome.
Hey, man. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. And for you listeners that don't know, I speak the King's English. Everybody else doesn't. This is how people should talk with a plane. So I will do my best to enunciate more so people can understand me nationwide.
Are you referencing that because you're a turkey guide, or because you're claiming to be from overseas?
Either or, whatever suits your fancy today. And my wife just said, enunciate, slow down and move your lips. So I'm trying today.
Well, I always sound like I have food in my mouth, so don't worry about it. Rusty, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us what you do, and then we'll get ripping.
So as Al said, we met 3 years ago, and I'm from Georgia, lived in Georgia, as you couldn't tell, my whole life in different parts of the state. I'm in outside sales.
Are you saying that if you're from Georgia, you speak the King's English?
We were one of the original 13. We were founded, so this is the King's English. The rest of y'all.
I've got a king. I've got a king for you, Rusty. You can speak its English.
Yeah, this is the King's English. This is the way everybody should talk. Put it this way: when you go to the grocery store, you put your groceries in a buggy. You don't put it in a cart or whatever else. It's a buggy. That is the way God intended. We can't help the rest of everybody else is not as perfect as we are. And if you never met anybody, especially from the Deep South, we're very proud of our heritage and history, and we get made fun of, and that's fine. You know, hey, look, you can't see me right now, but you grew up with red hair and a name like Rusty. You learn to get thick-skinned and get made fun of. So, but I'm in outside sales. I've been doing that forever, it seems, specifically like animals, nutrition. And then I have a consulting gig on the side where I help a couple of key farms, large private-owned farms, consult with their wildlife, from camera surveys to mapping, deer stand placement, guiding turkey hunts. Like when I met Al down there with the Badlands deal. There's a lot. I've been in the past couple of years. It has come to my attention more that as we are trying to grow our hunting numbers, right, our hunter number, we're declining. I've been very lucky to work with some first-time hunters, especially ladies, and I didn't realize how fortunate I was to grow up in the environment I did. I mean, my great-grandfather hunted, everybody in my family, when the area I'm from in very rural South Georgia, it's a town called Richland. It may have 1,000 people on a good day. Everybody hunted. It was a way of life, and it wasn't one season. It was year round, and it wasn't, oh yeah, we're going out to enjoy the outdoors. That was part of it, but it literally put food on the table, and it carried over. So I was born into that. Very fortunate. So you talk to these first time hunter ladies, and they're just enamored. They want to learn more because, and it was pointed out to me, we as hunters sometimes can be very tight-lipped and cultish, right? We want new people, but we don't want to talk a lot about what we do. And especially with turkeys. I want to go turkey hunting, but Al, I'm not going to tell you where I heard that bird at, right? We want to be selfish a little times. So seeing that has kind of opened me up more and going toward more people that, hey, look, you want to get into this? I'll show you. I'll help you. Because no matter how long you've been hunting, no matter how good you may or may not be at it, nobody's born knowing how to do it. I was born into it, but I didn't come out of the womb, and as Jeremiah Johnson, right? So you take those steps. And so it's been part of my life since day one. My wife didn't grow up with it. So seeing her kind of get into it a little bit more, enjoy the outdoors and kind of see more what it takes to, you go hunting. This is why this food is here. This is when we spend money, this is where our money goes to help our wildlife resources. And then we have a 9-year-old daughter to get her involved more because I want her involved, but I want other people. Because when I pass away, she takes over. We didn't gain a hunter, right? I want her friends that don't hunt. Saying all that to be able to do this podcast, to outside sales, it all comes together and trying to get more hunters out there, and then spending time with somebody like Al, who's from California. I mean, we don't really get a lot of people from South Georgia from California. And we didn't kill each other.
I'm a transplant in California.
You are.
I tell everybody that. And I'm very clear with that. I'm originally from the East Coast. I've been there for almost 20 years.
So Rusty, before we get too deep into picking your brain about snoods and spurs, I'd like to mention something in regards to what you just said. In pulling in new hunters, but being a little secretive about where we hunt or some of our little tricks of the trades that help us maybe be a little more successful than the next guy. I love introducing new people to the sport. I really pursue that. I'm working with a new turkey hunter right now, and we're planning an incredible first hunt for him, a backcountry turkey hunt. My big thing is, and I think it's kind of like a landowner. If somebody comes up to me and says, hey, where were you scouting last weekend? Or, hey, tell me where you hunt. I'm a new hunter and I want to go hunt. Where do you hunt? I'm probably not going to tell them my hotspot, or I'm not going to tell somebody just randomly on Facebook or Instagram that says, hey, great scouting pics. Where were you scouting? No, I'm not going to do that. However, if somebody comes to me and says, I really want to learn how to hunt, will you spend some time with me and mentor me? And maybe not use the word mentor, but approach me with the interest and time and willingness to go out and learn. I'm 100% on board. I think it kind of goes back to the saying of give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach that man how to fish, and he's going to be broke for the rest of his life. I look at hunting the same way. And that's when you were talking about, that's immediately what my mind went to was there's, again, I'm going to repeat myself, but those folks that all post a picture about how many miles I put in last weekend with my wife scouting and shared a couple of photos of what we saw. And then I'm pinged with, hey, where were you scouting at? What WMA was that? What region was that? Hey, are you in this location? Versus the guy that I'm working with right now that has been coming over to my house every Wednesday night for the last 2 months, preparing for an upcoming turkey hunt. And we're going scouting for an entire weekend backcountry next weekend. Those are the people that I want to mentor and work with. I'll call you on the phone and talk to you in generalities. And I will, if you're local to Virginia Beach, I'll work on your bow for you if you're a brand new bow hunter. But don't expect me to just vomit information for you if you're not willing to put in some effort.
Yeah, I think you got to put in the effort. I think if when you're like turkey hunting, right? You say, "Oh, I'm not going to tell you where I heard this bird at." Well, we automatically assume that he's chained to that tree, and they do have free will to move as they want to. Maybe the guy that you told a guy and he went in and he bumped the turkey and he's so far off, or maybe something else scared him.
So
They do have equal opportunity.
They've never been affected by taxation without representation, right?
Right. And then you look at deer hunting now, and we tend to anthropomorphize it so much, and that's a big word coming from somebody from Georgia. I can say it, but I can't spell it. When we name things, right? People are like, "Oh, this is the big willy deer." They name these things, and that's my deer. We go back to we're talking about the King's English. It's not your deer, because we're not living under the system that we did have. We're in your it is our deer, whether it's on private land, public land, or whatever. It is our deer. He can move wherever he wants to. So I'm not a fan of people are, that's great. I try not to hate on other people's opinions. I'm not a fan of naming deer. I do this big survey for a customer, and there'll be 230 individual bucks. They get named how many points they have, 8.1, 8.2, 8.3. That's just how I found them. I don't name them. Even the really large deer, he's still known by how many points and whatever number he came in that list, because to me, in the end, he's still a deer, right? Now, if I get lucky and able to shoot that deer, I celebrate, man, that's a really big deer. I put all this effort into it, but he still doesn't get a name, even if he goes on a walk, because he is just a deer. He's not a person. Same thing with the turkeys. Is it cool to give some things nicknames? Absolutely. Whatever makes it fun. And that's the thing I've realized, because I tend to take things so serious, and I'm a competitive person with myself, right? And so I've learned that when I take my daughter, I can't be we're going to shoot this many deer. We're going to do this. We're out there to have fun, have a good time, whatever it takes for her to enjoy it. But I do share that information with her. And then other people, I wasn't always this way, but as I've, like I said, been lucky enough to be around some people and different people from all over the country, right? Virginia Beach, we got, California, to share more of that, whatever knowledge, and not be just so tight-lipped about it. There's plenty of deer, there's plenty of turkeys, there's plenty of fish, whatever it may be. We just have to make sure we're going out there and enjoying it and spending the money, because it is tax money that helps us keep it, because we fight amongst ourselves so much and forget that there are people trying to take it away because they don't understand it.
100%.
So, and I think about that a lot, and I think that's gotten just because I got older, and I do have some gray, Al. I mean, I'm not all there like you.
You got a long way to go. You got to work up to it.
Dude, that is a one more pimp beard. So, but yeah, I mean, it's funny how our views change, but our passions get stronger. And to say, passionate about hunting in general. Oh yeah, turkey hunting. I get asked, what's your favorite animal to hunt? Like, it depends on what season it is, brother. Deer season, deer hunting. I'm an avid a small game guy. I don't get to go as much as I used to, just because my deer season is taking so much up with the consulting stuff, and then there's a little break, and then turkey season gets ready. But small game, love it. Squirrel especially, and I've tried to help some people that what I've seen have gotten in. Deer hunting is like their first endeavor, and they'll say, "Yeah, I'm just not being successful." Like, you want to be a better deer hunter? Go learn how to kill squirrels. If you get really good at sneaking through the woods and killing squirrels with a 22 or a shotgun or whatever you want to do. If you want to do a slingshot, go at it. I don't care. You will be a better hunter overall. And I think we're skipping that small game thing to the point of, like, I'm taking my daughter, she's 9. She goes deer hunting with me. I said, when you learn to shoot a rifle and get comfortable with it, then we'll work on that. To that point, though, we're going to get you better at shooting squirrels, better at shooting rabbits, whatever small game might be in season.
I think you make a good point there, Rusty. My dad started me off shooting rabbits and squirrels with a little hand-me-down 22 before I got the family 22 handed to me. It was learn how to shoot this, open sights, and take squirrels out. And it takes time, but I think you said something interesting too, that we are competitive. We should be competitive with ourselves. And it makes us a better hunter. It really does. And I also think that there's a little gray area there, and Sprocket and I jump in on this when we hunt together, is we're a little competitive with each other, but in a fun way, in a supportive way. Aaron last year said, "Hey, I've already taken my deer. Why don't you go down in my set?" And jokingly, it was, "Well, I already got my deer out of it, so you can go have your shot." And we joke about it, but we're not putting each other down. And I think that's key. But I'm with both of you too, especially here in California. You gotta get boots to the ground. There's far too many people that want the easy way out, and they expect you. The sense of entitlement out here is very rampant, and I am more than willing to help out another hunter. There's been a couple times I've taken groups of 10 or 12 guys out to teach them optics and how to scout, and they had no idea. A couple of them were military guys, and afterward I've stayed friends with one of them for a long time. We'll chat from here on out, and he's always, hey, thanks for taking me out and doing that. I said it's a different look on the land. That's all it is. But you just have to take the time and do it. Just be patient with it. You're not going to throw the binoculars up and instantly see a giant deer to shoot. You got to be still, especially with our kids too, is getting them out there, introducing them to things that we can, stepping stones to move on up. I think that's a grand thing in today's society.
Well, I think you said the competitive part. You got to have fun, man. You got to have fun. I'll go talk to a hunting club, and they're like, "We want to grow bigger deer." Everybody does, right? Nobody comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to pay you to help me grow smaller deer." Nobody says that, right? We want to grow bigger deer. We want to have more turkeys. But in the end, when you write the rules up for them, say, "Hey, look, this is your plan," you still got to make it fun. Because they do need to bring their kids, or even if they're like, no kids, we got to be over 18. That's cool, man. It's your world, but you got to have fun at it, because if it's not fun, you're going to take out the competitiveness. You're going to take out everything, and you're going to hate it. It's kind of like having a job that you hate every day. You don't want to do anything, right? So you got to enjoy it. You got to have fun. You go buy a bigger double barrel. You go buy more, mouth calls, whatever it is. Because and I've said it several times, that tax money goes back to help our DNR people preserve more wildlife in these different nonprofit organizations. So you got to have fun with everything, or at least I do. I mean, maybe I'm just a fat 48-year-old overgrown kid, and that's cool. I'm fine with that. I'm fluffy, not fat. So
I think that it's interesting that with the different states we're in, with Virginia, Georgia, California, the different we all have turkey hunting. We all, we have deer hunting. We have, Rusty, you and I have pig hunting. I don't know if there's much pig hunting in Virginia or not, to be honest with you, Sprocket, but we have similar types of hunting. But, in Georgia, it's shoot to kill. If you see a pig, shoot it. Here, you've got to buy a $22.50 tag in order to shoot it. Yeah. So you can see why I love coming to Georgia to hunt.
Man, that is a money-making pyramid scheme.
Can you imagine how much money you'd be raking in Georgia?
Oh my gosh, man!
You guys are going to get me on my hog hunting soapbox again. Don't bait me like that, Al.
Well, but before we get, I have a question for y'all. Can I ask y'all a question?
Sure.
No.
Turn us around, right?
No.
Right, so
no questions from you.
I'm in sales, right? So I have questions for you. And you didn't get this chance to study up on this, but it's something you should know. If you want to think about it, that's fine. Your Mount Rushmore of Little Debbie snacks. Ooh, that hits you in the diabetic area, doesn't it?
It's easy for me. I am not a Little Debbie fan. I'm not a sweets fan.
I thought we could be friends. That's cool. More diabetes for me. So you don't do Little Debbie at all? No sweets, anything like that?
No, my snacks in a tree stand, or if I'm out on a hike or a backcountry hunt, I lean more towards, I like some type of a Pro Bar. That's an actual brand, Pro Bar. Heather's Choice makes a snack called their Packaroon. I really do like the Packaroon. But as far as eating a candy bar or a pastry or a Little Debbie, that's not my gig.
But I'm with Sprocket though here on this, because we joke about Little Debbie's and everything, but I don't usually bring a lot of sweets with me. I do bring one. And if I were to take a Little Debbie, it would be an oatmeal cream pie, just because it can get smashed up and I can still cut the end of that bag off and squeeze that in my mouth if I need to. But I'm typically a beef stick, Pro Bar, and the only sweets that I usually pack are I'll pack a Payday candy bar. And that's in case I need a little pick-me-up later in the day. It just sits there, and the reason I choose a Payday is there's no chocolate in it. It's not going to melt out here in the heat.
I was wondering who that one person that was eating Payday that kept that company in business was, and now we found it. So
exactly, I keep that ball rolling. But yeah, I've gone through enough chocolate covered or chocolate chip or whatever candy bars out here in California to realize hunting in the heat is not good for anything that's going to melt. And those paydays are fantastic. And there's been times, I mean, you guys, if you hike 12 miles in a day and you're really thirsty, but you realize you need that little boost of energy, I'll rip into a payday candy bar and it just a little bit of protein, a little bit of nugget, and I'm good.
Rusty, if we had Chris Ham and Logan Chartrand on this podcast with us from HHA USA, they would 100% monopolize this conversation with you about Little Debbie's. I think Logan lives on them.
And I have I mean, it's one of those things like I didn't know if it was more regional, how far things go out, outside. I mean, they're a Southern-based company, but you're right. I mean, chocolate, you don't keep. I mean, my wife brought me some kind of supposed to be healthy trail mix stuff the other day, and it had little pieces of chocolate in there. And it's cold right now for us. It got up to 60 degrees the other day, but the humidity, and now I have a chocolate blob of stuff. I mean, now last week it was 80 something, but I don't keep the chocolate there in a turkey vest or anything like that hunting with me. I'm more of just a plain Jane, whatever grocery store, cereal bar or something, just I can get out relatively easy and munch on. I keep them in my turkey vest or in my backpack when I go deer hunting. When you take a 9-year-old, you double down on snacks. You got to have stuff for them to eat a lot of. Gummy bears, gummy worms, they like those a lot. But Little Debbie as a whole, if you saw the backseat of my truck during hardcore deer hunting time, you would swear I own stock in it, because that keeps you going. It's cool enough; they're not going to melt during the day. That keeps that truck and me fueled up.
Well, so oddly enough, I sat here and stated that I wasn't a sweets fan. Rusty, last September, when I went on my backcountry elk hunt, one of my snacks, one of my treats was a handful of trolley sour worms. And when I finished that hunt, I had developed an addiction for those things. And from the end of September until right around mid-December, I could not stop eating them. I gained 15 pounds. I was eating trolley sour worms every day. I would go through almost a bag of trolley worms a day. And there were days, depending on what size bag that I found in the store, because they make 2 or 3 different size bags. If all they have was the larger bags, if I opened a bag of sour worms, it was not going to be put away in the cupboard that day. It would be emptied. If I was driving somewhere on the weekend, my in-laws live about 5 hours away. So if Tara and I hopped in the vehicle when she got off work on Friday and headed to the in-laws, I would eat an entire bag of trolleys in that 5-hour period. I did that from the end of September until around mid-December. I put on 15 pounds. I had to quit cold turkey. I tried to just come off the throttle a little bit. Yeah, it didn't work. It did not work.
You had to cut it off. I'm done.
I have not had trolleys for probably a month and a half.
You got any in your cupboard you don't want?
No,
I know some people that do.
I can't have them. I can't have them in the house. I have zero self-control with those stupid things.
You're like me in sweet tea. Here in the South, we and I mean it's sweet, right? Like you should stir it. The spoon should stand straight up in it. That means you're tracking in the right direction.
Let's call it what it is. It's syrup.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Mexican restaurants have the best, right? They put more sugar. You eat the chips. It goes. It's like amazing. But that's my nemesis. I had to cut it out. I grew up on it, and luckily my wife doesn't drink it. Never drank it. I can't have one glass.
So
it continues and goes on and on.
Is sweet tea King's English for iced tea?
No. Sweet tea. We have sweet tea and unsweet tea.
Okay.
And if somebody says, it's funny, I was in a good barbecue place. It's called a barbecue joint, right? A barbecue restaurant, probably not gonna be that good. It's gonna be some kind of chain. But I'm not, if I say, hey, Sprocket, you want to go to the barbecue joint? It's gonna be local. If it's really good barbecue, it's only going to be open on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They're only going to take cash. There's probably going to be a lot of pictures, religious pictures on the wall, because good barbecue is a religious experience. And it's everybody that works there is going to look similar because it's family. That's really good barbecue. Now, this side of Texas, it's all pork. Go to Texas, it's all beef, right? There's a huge debate about all this stuff. But I was in this barbecue joint, And this lady, you could tell she wasn't from there. She asked for an iced tea, and immediately I knew. And then I overheard them talking, and they were just traveling through. They were from somewhere out there. I don't know, California or something. They weren't that far, but they were somewhere near there. But yeah, iced tea is typically unsweet, and sweet and low does not sweeten it. You have to have good sugar in there and heat that water up enough where your teeth gain weight off of it.
So true. I learned my lesson well of saying sweet tea or unsweet tea. You don't say iced tea. And I've had very confused looks, when I've said iced tea, and they're like, yeah, I get it now.
And you can't put those weights on, right? I mean, y'all are packing around mountains, and I'm getting ready to take people turkey hunting. So I got to, get those miles in. I mean, Al, we walked a few miles a few years ago. So, if you're going to go after them, you got to go after them hard. That takes a lot of walking.
When's your first hunt, Rusty?
Our season, I'm not gonna say it's mine, but they changed season around. Youth season opens in Georgia next Saturday for 2 days, and then private land opens the following Saturday, so April 1st, and then I think public land is the next Saturday. Don't quote me on the public land part, but I do know the private land part.
And
then it all goes out middle of May.
Are you guiding on private or public or both?
Private. Where I live, I'm surrounded by a lot of public. I never grew up hunting public land. Always, and it's not, you had privilege. I mean, South Georgia, there's not a lot of public. There's just a lot of rural areas. But where we live now in the middle of the state, there's a lot of public. I never got into it. I want to learn more, because if I have a morning I can go, I got to go. But there comes in, what we talked about start with, right? Friends of mine go, but they're kind of tight-lipped about where they go. They don't want to share their honey holes. And my thing is, I don't want to go kill the turkey. I just want to be there to watch it die. Because if the way I approach turkey hunting, if he is audacious enough to gobble that hard on a limb and hit the ground and to keep gobbling, he deserves to die. He is bragging to the world, and he deserves to have him put in his place. You go after him. I go to enjoying that, but you can ask Al, when we go to kill the turkey.
I've never heard it put that way, but that is awesome.
It is, yeah. Stop bragging.
Nope, not bragging. Don't show off. Nothing wrong with being confident. Nobody likes cocky. And I think Al, you said earlier, Sprocket Chubbs. Sorry, I'll get it right in a second. About mistakes. I try to get better. But I'm not. I don't think I am yet. When I have a turkey beat me, or beat me and somebody, meaning he was coming and something happened that he didn't die, whether it was my fault or maybe some little fluke, I beat myself up, and I dwell on that a lot harder than I do when I shoot a turkey. Even by myself, I shot a turkey, that's great, we did this, oh, it's awesome, you love it. So I've slowed down a little bit to really enjoy it, but I will dwell on what I could have done, because in my mind, he beat me. He's got the brain the size of a pecan, and it is pecan, not pecan. So I feel, slighted, and it is pecan. Look it up. We grow them, right? We can call it what we want.
That's the King's English, right?
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I had a pecan in Iraq. It was right next to my bunk.
I say
mine's in my tree stand.
Yeah. If you don't want to have to walk out to the piss tube 100 yards from your hooch, you had a pecan next to your bunk.
Well, here pecans are brown and about an inch or so, and we don't pee in cans. We're not Neanderthals. But you just got to get fired up, and this time of year, that's it. And he, somebody said, well, I heard a guy on a podcast saying, well, if they didn't gobble, would you hunt them? I don't think so. I mean, it's something about hearing it, right? Whether it's once or he's coming, or it's something, I don't know if it's ingrained in some of our DNA, maybe, but it just gets you going. And even to watch a hen, and that's the thing, if there's any new people on here, or they're like, well, what can I do to learn more? I was talking to a lady last year. She's really trying to kill a turkey, and she just hadn't had a lot of success. And I said, watch a hen. She goes, well, I'll watch it. They'll come up occasionally, and I'm like, watch her movements, and watch her mouth. Watch her cadence, right? If you ever watch a calling competition, they're moving their hands like they're talking. That's to keep them in rhythm. So watch her cadence and how she's saying the notes. And is she passionate? Is she mad? Is she happy? They're moody just like we are. So watching that and watching how she can move her mouth and be quiet and how she can move her mouth and be loud, I think helps you understand how they communicate more when you're out there. And then if I hear a hen and I think there might be a here, call them bird or tom with her, I try to make her mad. So if she yelps, I yelp back. If she yelps that, whatever she's saying, I'm mimicking it best I can. I want to upset her because if she's that boss hen, or maybe she's just, I hit her in a bad mood. I want her to come looking for who is saying something in her area. And if maybe she has a boyfriend with her, right? He's just being quiet. We all do that. We follow our wives around sometimes, and we're just quiet behind him. When he pops out, there he is. That's what I want to see. So, it's just like deer hunting. You
That's
want to
called
learn more about deer hunting? Watch them.
That's called self-preservation, Rusty.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to hang out in the shadows and not say a word when my wife's around. Sometimes it's just better. She loves me dearly, but every now and then the 6-year-old gets on her nerves.
Yes, ma'am. You just look and go, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Understand the program. You get the evil eye. So
one of the things that I took away when you and I hunted together, Rusty, was
not a turkey.
Exactly.
No.
I did not take away a turkey, but I took away a lot of knowledge. The one of the first times we went out, we actually had Jordan Suswitz filming, and so he was off on my right side, maybe 8 yards, not even. He's pretty close, 7 yards, and Rusty was behind me calling. And when we got to this spot, it was, I don't know, what was it, 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. The sun was hitting the trees just right, and there's a shadow line in the peanut field, and we figured, you know what, those turkeys are I've seen it many times. They come right along that shadow. They stay just out of the sun and they come right along that. And Rusty was calling that out, that they're going to come right down that line. So I got set up to shoot a turkey on that line. And when we got in there, we heard toms across this canyon, 200 yards away. And we just posted up real quick. And it wasn't half an hour, 45 minutes later, the turkeys did not come in and did not read the script. They came directly to my right, 6-7 yards away along a fence line where the other shadow was from the other side of the trees. And we're just kind of laughing under our breath, but they came in and they're just looking around. I could see them out of the corner of my eye, can't move. And they disappeared behind us. And we waited a good half hour, probably, maybe longer than that. I don't remember, but it was a solid time. We didn't move, didn't call, and they just kept walking. And we said, well, let's go try a different spot. As soon as we stood up, those 3 birds took off. They had stayed right behind us the whole time. And we're just looking. They just stopped and were waiting. And it was really interesting to me that I laugh about it because, they didn't read the script. They didn't come out in the open, but here they came right along exactly what you said they were, just on the other side. And you had to go about it. You can't go into it thinking, well, geez, Rusty's a terrible guide, or I'm a terrible hunter for setting up the way I did. You go in, you learn something. And we had fun. It was great. It was even Jordan was turned the wrong way. The turkeys came directly from his right. He couldn't film them. It was just an interesting experience, but you learn something from it.
That, again, though, you can do everything perfect and the animal still gets a vote.
Oh, and you're in his house, right?
Absolutely.
We forget that you are in his. You think you know this, but you are in his house, his room. He's there every day, and while he's trying to find a girlfriend, he still knows things are trying to eat him. They're a prey species. And in that instance, what it was there was we set up. There was a gap on a barbed wire fence and then a big tree line. Well, when we first heard those turkeys, they were on the south side of that barbed wire fence. We didn't know it. I thought that they were on what would be the northern side. Well, they'd fly down, they'd go out here in this field, and they'd follow that edge. They were on the south side. Turkey can be lazy. They just followed this old trail and came up on the right. If they had been on the other side of the fence where we thought they were, it would have been different. But yeah, we were set up how we thought they were going to come. They didn't. I still think about that sometimes, like, well, I should have done this and that. Yeah, think that helps me try to be better. To dwell on, all right, and use those mistakes. I know some people say, oh, you shouldn't want to mess up or make mistakes. To me, that's how we learn. I had a guy in sales try to train me and years ago, and he never wanted anybody to fail. I'm like, man, you gotta fail sometime, right? You know, what did they say in the Batman movie that he told Bruce Wayne's father tells him, Bruce, why do we fall down? So we can get back up. Right. So what happened there? All right, so we know that gap's there. Now we know those things of and yeah, oh, they won't you can't call one down a hill, but you can call one up a hill. No, it just depends on his mood. They won't cross about they do cross fences, they do cross water. Do they like to? It depends on the turkey. You know, so you can't there's no absolutes there, which I guess was what drives some of us even more because it's never a guarantee. And I've talked to buddies of mine who travel around the country to hunt for some different companies, and time again, they say, you know, what's the hardest species? I'm not gonna say the hardest bird because the hardest bird, I think, depends on what his mood is for that day and the environment. You know, you can take a really easy bird. If he got pressured a lot, he's gonna get hard. But the hardest species, in my opinion, is the birds in the southeast. See if you get Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. I mean, these birds get hunted hard. They live in some thicker areas. There's a lot of things trying to eat them and go against them. And they are just really, really hard, really wary of the world that's going on around them. To the point of, I think, Al, when you came down, you had your bow. You really wanted to shoot one with your bow.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, man, bring it. It was set in the back seat. And he was like, what do you think? I was like, well, you can bring it, but I'm going to bring the shotgun. And I think you toted the bow for a time or two. But anytime we had a turkey, we would hear something, I'd give you the shotgun. And then finally it was like, I'm just going to take the shotgun. You know, because it got so much harder. Can it be done with the bow? There are people that do it. But in my mind, when I go out there, I'm out there to kill it. And I want every advantage, you know, I can. So, you know, you're talking about your double barrel, your over and under, earlier. They're a cool looking gun. I'd love to have one. I swapped last year. My turkey gun, I was using I think it was a Franke 12 gauge 3.5 inch. And the only reason I shot a 3.5 is they don't make a 4. Right. I grew up, the bigger their hole, the bigger the shell, the more, not necessarily the farther out you can shoot it, but you hit it harder. You know, if you ever watched the truth videos growing up and stuff, and I did this growing up, you shot one, you had to get up and get after it, right? Because you didn't want it to run away. Because the shells and everything we're using are not what they are now. So last year I swapped over to a TriStar 20 gauge and put it's their semi-automatic and put a Chubbs choke on it. Those guys are great, and a Vortex red dot, and I shoot TSS ammo, and it works for me. It works for if I take a kid hunting, if I take an inexperienced person hunting, they're not looking at this big, huge 12 gauge, 3.5 inch Magnum gun. They're looking at a smaller gun. They can handle it. It's a lot shorter, a lot lighter, less intimidating, and it will reach out there and touch one. Is it going to shoot one 60, 70 yards? I don't know. I'm not going to shoot one that far. But at 40 yards, 45 yards, if that's as close as he's going to come, then yes, it will flat kill one dead. And I think it gives us a better chance. And I mean, they're great guns. And the 28 gauge, you know, that's the new novelty coming on, right? It went from 410 to 28. So all those smaller gauges are getting a lot more popular. But, you know, whether you're walking or, you know, whether you don't walk that much, shoot something that's comfortable for you. And if you don't want to shoot TSS, that's cool. You know, shoot whatever you want, just shoot something. But that's what I have gone to. And when people ask me, I tell them this is what I use.
TSS is the way to go. I'm a firm believer in that. I mean, not just from what you've told me. Aaron and I have talked about it, and I've talked about it with other hunters, even the dead end guys. It patterns really well.
I'm a firm believer in getting people into the sport. And we've gone back and forth on this from basically the beginning of this podcast. And with TSS, and we talked about deer hunting a little bit, I posted a picture on the Sprocket Chubbs Instagram page recently within the last couple of days. And it's of me with my first bird. And I was shooting my first shotgun. It's a Winchester Model 1300 Upland Bird Special. And it had the wind choke system in it. And we had my dad and I had the full choke in it. I don't even remember what turkey loads we were shooting. They were 2 3/4 or 3 inch, probably 3 inch back then. I don't remember what brand. It was 2002, Rusty. And I killed that bird just fine at about 30 yards. Do you have to have a $100 choke and TSS loads in your 12 gauge or 20 gauge to kill a turkey? You absolutely do not. And if there's a new hunter out there, or if there's a a deer hunter out there that wants to get into turkey hunting, do you have to go spend $1,300 on a specific turkey shotgun? And do you have to have a Jeb's choke? And do you have to shoot TSS in order to kill a bird? Absolutely not. But I will say this. Does a Jeb's choke and TSS up your odds of harvesting that bird when it comes time to slap the trigger? 100%. And if you have the means to add that Jeb's choke and TSS to your turkey toolbox, then I highly encourage you to spend the money on that addition. That's my view.
It's a tool, right? Like if you get, everybody now wants to do a video and do a turkey vest dump, right? And what's in your turkey vest? Well, a turkey vest is a tool. The calls in there are a tool. Your whatever you have in that thing is a tool of many tools. The shotgun itself. So
you consider little Debbie's tools?
That's fuel and necessity. That's a necessity to get you going, especially when you're like me and you don't really eat heavy breakfasts. So if first thing in the morning, whether I'm going by myself or I got somebody, I'm going to be fueled with some sugar, some little Debbie stuff going.
So I have a question for you, Rusty.
Pop-Tart. Yes, sir.
Since you brag about the King's English, if little Debbie came out with a king size Debbie, would you go ahead and shift over to that king size Debbie? Would that become your go-to snack?
A king size Debbie?
Yeah.
What's the flavor?
Pick one.
Chocolate. There is no other.
Well, okay, then why'd you ask me?
You know what? I'm an equal opportunity employer, so I would try it and see.
That was a trick question, Rusty.
You tricked me?
You were trying to trick me. You asked me what flavor, and then you turn around and say, well, there's only one flavor. That's a trick question.
Just
you
chocolate.
were setting me up for failure.
Chocolate. And so you got to try it. You gotta fuel this. You said something earlier about taste, man. Pop-Tarts fuel the world too. I do like a frosted strawberry Pop-Tart. I will not lie. They don't even have to be toasted. I eat them raw. If you have time to toast it, that's like high classy. That you've got time. Then it's supposed to be eating going down the road. We were talking about loads and spending money and tools and whatnot. Last year, Rusty, when I bought that 20 gauge. I went with the Longbeard XR. I've had great success with the Longbeard XR. It's a great shotgun shell. It's an affordable turkey load. And I bought my 20 gauge last year, put my optic on it, and I did purchase a Jeb's choke for it. And I started looking at loads. I wasn't in the mood to spend the money for TSS, not last year. This year, I am 100% shooting TSS. I'm shooting Saddies Fatties this year. That's probably the only TSS I'll ever shoot because Aaron Satterfield is a friend of mine and he is making some incredible turkey loads. So I will shoot Saddies Fatties. But yes, I am now transitioned over to TSS. Well, when it first came out and I saw the popularity growing, I was like, man, I don't see how you spend that, right? I had blinders on. And then last year I bit the bullet and there's too many people talking good things about it. The best quote I can tell you. So for anybody out there that's just like, I just don't know how. We talked about tools, right? Turkey calls, turkey vests, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing that connects you to that turkey is that shotgun shell. That is what actually kills the turkey, right? No matter how good turkey hunter you are, you got lucky, whatever, is that shotgun shell. And the guy, actually it was Apex Ammo on another podcast. Hopefully they don't, trademark or something. But he said, if you were going to spend money, wouldn't you want to spend it on the one thing that connects you to that turkey? I was like, that actually makes more sense. I mean, I know guys that will not spend $10 around. That's roughly $10 a shell, but they spend $3 or $4 round for their deer rifle, their cartridges, right? Their deer. And I don't mean they're shooting like some exotic round. Oh, I got to have this and that. And they're shooting 100 yards, which is not far. But when it comes to turkeys, they don't want to do that. Even though most people, a box of 5 might last them several years.
Rusty, that's a really interesting concept. I've never thought about it that way.
Yep. Well, you think about your turkey vest. What's a turkey vest cost? And I know guys that swap out every couple of years. And now, I mean, it's nothing to pay $200 for one. you know, and he'll have 3 or 4 and his camo and this, and they complain about the shells. Like, that's the one thing, man. And I was always taught growing up, you buy ammo when you can. I mean, it doesn't expire as long as you keep it dry, right? It's still that ammo. So that was another selling point to me. I mean, not to beat the dead horse. I hear about it a lot, but shoot what you like. I mean, that's me. If you want to hate on me, that's fine. I don't care. It's kind of like, I think we were texting the other day about people, oh, if you're not hunting public, you know, Al, you know, we walked, what we were walking, what, 6 or 7 miles easy?
Hold on.
Yeah, 6-7 miles a day.
Let's throw all the details out on what you just tabled for us. You were
what I table?
You were talking about, wasn't it the decoy? Somebody was asking about this, the lightest decoy that's out there, because they did not want to have to carry a decoy or a large heavy decoy.
Yeah. I saw that on the Dave Smith page, because we had talked about
it was Dave Smith. That's right.
And some guy said, why don't you guys make something a little bit lighter so that we don't want to carry something that big out there. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is going to be great. So that's why I texted it to you guys, because I chuckled at it, because I understand what he's saying, but there are other options, just like ammunition. You know, you could still get it done. You know, we joked about the blow up decoys. You know what? You put a blow up decoy out there and that turkey's coming in, he sees that, you know what? He's going to come for it.
I have an inflatable Tom for this backcountry trip. I've also ordered the Montana, one of their Hen XDs. I've never actually seen one, so I ordered one on Amazon. It was Wednesday night, and I'm really excited for it to get here. I think it should be delivered tomorrow. I'm really excited to see that.
We've still got a Delta foldable decoy, and it's got 1996 written on the side of it. How I kept up with that damn thing this long, but it's there.
Are you still using it?
Yeah, I'll use it some.
Nice.
Nice. But I mean, the decoy Al talked about, I mean, you look at the price of them. I don't want one that weighs like that. You're paying for the details in that. You know, you're not going to get those details in something that weighs half a pound.
Yeah.
You know, those guys are paying for that. So pick you something. You know, I'll autograph my Delta decoy and sell it to you.
I have 2 avians. And I really like avian decoys. And if I know that I'm not going to walk a lot for that hunt, especially if I'm with another hunter and we can each carry one, I have a Jake and a hen. I prefer not to use a single decoy in high pressure areas. If I'm hunting a high pressure public area, I would prefer to hunt without a decoy. But if I'm going to hunt with a decoy, especially with 2, those avians are fantastic, but I don't want to pack them for 6, 8, 10 miles in a day. I would prefer to have something a little bit more, and it's not the weight of the decoy, it's the bulkiness of that decoy.
Yeah.
If I'm hunting it with the turkey vest on, I can fit one in that vest, or I'm hanging decoy bags all over my body. Can I do it? Absolutely, and I will when I want or need to, but normally I'm only going to carry one.
I mean, and that's what I do. You know, when Al and I went, and I would take other people, then I would have an Avian X, I'd have a Jake, and then I'd have a hen. And depending on what I thought we were going to do, might take. I also have a Primos B Mobile. You can take his fan on and off. You can make it look like a Jake, etc. So a lot of times, if I knew we were going to walk a lot, I just have that, and I would have the Avian X, and I'd have one bag, and I'd have it slung over my shoulder, and I took a lot of green athletic tape and made a pad on it more, and it went one way, my shotgun went the other. I knew where everything was, and I just knew that was what was going to go with me, right? And I'm not saying this is the right way. This is how my 2 little brain cells work. I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So if Al and I were walking and we've been walking this way and that way, and also we strike a turkey, I'm like, man, we got it, but I need this. I want to have it right then because I want to give us the most successful chance. Right now, things have changed a little bit. The boss lady presented a good PowerPoint, and she let us buy a golf cart to hunt with a couple of years ago. That has changed a lot. And I know some people are like, oh, you're cheating, man. Trust me, if that's cheating, I should have done it a long time ago. Because it is, especially, you know, when you're guiding somebody like Al's a guest, right? Give the most success. So I'll have stuff in there. I'll have all the decoys. They got their place. Shotgun goes here. We've got extra bottles of water. We've got extra snacks, different things on there. And we can cover a lot of ground.
There is no such thing as extra snacks when Chubbs is around.
More than
Chubbs
the
snacks.
2
There's
bars
no
of turkey bacon.
extras.
But last year, perfect. We talked about stories, right? I had a guest with me, and he had tried real hard all year, and he said, "Look, I got a hard stop at I think 10 o'clock." He and a buddy were down hunting together, and his buddy was somewhere else. And about 9:30, 9:45, when we played with some turkeys that morning, and they had other ideas. And about 9:30, 9:45, I yelped off and heard a turkey. God, once he looked at me. I said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, do you want to kill the turkey or not?" He said, "I want to kill the turkey." I said, "Call the guy, tell him I'll get you to wherever you need to go, but we're going to go kill this turkey." And he had set up, he had a little, I don't know, quarter-acre food plot this turkey did on the edge of a hard wood ridge surrounded by some thick pines, and he wasn't leaving it. We set up on the edge of the road. He sat there and gobble, gobble, gobble. And he had his place, right? Like he was waiting because you're reversing nature when you turkey hunt, right? So he's expecting the hen to walk up and I don't look like a hen. So we backed up and said, "What do you want to do?" And I pulled out my phone and used one of the mapping things. I said, "We're going to make a big circle." I said, "Do you want to kill him?" He goes, "Man, I really want to kill a turkey." We got you. So we made a big circle. We crossed a couple of creeks. We went through some really thick pines and went way around where he wouldn't hear us and came up on the other side of him where it opened up a little bit. Flying back up, I set him up. I don't know, we're probably 80 yards down from the turkey this time. I've been real quiet. And he would look at the phone, like, "Let's go up here." I was like, "No, I said, we would rather be further away and work our way toward him than be on top of him and he see us," right? He sat down and I yelped. We had located him again. He's still sitting there. I yelped once, twice, real soft. And he just walked down that edge, and the guy shot him at like, I don't know, 10, 12 yards with a TSS, split his beard in half. But we struck that turkey at 10 Georgia time, and I think we killed him at like 12:30 or 1, but it took that long. And he said, "I never would have done that, never would have worked this hard for it." I was like, "If you want to kill it, I said, if you want to, this is what you have to put into." But we had a great conversation over what it took, right? To get it done that day. I was like, he had his spot. He had no reason to go. There's no telling how many countless times he had flown down to that food plot and sat there. That was his place. And I was like, we went into his house and we won. And we still talk about it this day. It was a great moment. But we were back there because we had the golf cart. We had driven around all morning and heard different places. And the golf cart did help us out that day. So
I'm having a blast sitting here talking about all this stuff. If we do have one more topic to discuss, or I have one more that I'd like to bring up, and it's something that I've had a couple of discussions with my new turkey hunter. And he's asked me a couple of times, what bird should I shoot? And I told him a legal bird. That's all I care about. I want you to shoot a legal bird that makes you happy. And he asked me about jakes. And I told him, I said, when it's my turn on the gun, I'm not going to shoot a jake. That's just me personally. And I know a lot of turkey hunters that will shoot jakes, and I might have an empty tag at the end of the season if I pass on a jake. It happens. My input to him is you shoot what feels right when the moment comes. If a jake comes in and it has you fired up and your heart's racing and you can hardly hold the muzzle of your shotgun still, and you choose to take that jake, that's going to be the most exciting moment for both of us on that morning. If a bearded hen comes in and she gets you fired up and you choose you want to shoot a bearded hen because that is 100% legal, then shoot the bearded hen. If you want to try to hold out and shoot a mature tom and you pass on multiple birds until you have that moment, I fully support your endeavor, and that's what I'm going to try to do for you. I will work until I potentially call in a mature tom for you. There's a lot of people that don't agree with that. I'm sure Al shares that opinion just because I know Al that well. I'm meeting you for the first time. What are your thoughts on that, especially as a guide?
I think, let's say the place you're at, a jake's legal. Some places the place I spend a lot of time, they don't want you to shoot jakes. That's fine, right? That's how they're growing their turkey population. If you're at a place and a jake is legal and especially you've got a new hunter because it's not easy to kill a turkey. And that's what comes in, and that's what's there. And you busted your hind end to get there. Shoot, I mean, it's fine. Shoot it, right? That's what's legal, because you just want to get people more involved. Just like if first time hunter and they've been hunting and a spike walks off, and that's going to keep them enthralled. And it's wherever they're hunting, it's legal. It's okay within whatever club rules or ever how that works. Shoot it. Let's celebrate it. It's the biggest thing in the world. Everybody remembers their first deer, right? And most of us didn't shoot this monster the first time we went. We hope, right? You want to grow towards something. So we all started out there. So yeah, shoot what makes you happy. As long as it's legal. Now, if you shot a bunch of turkeys and you're a bona fide killer, I'm probably going to frown on that guy if he's out shooting jakes, right? Because he is hurting the next generation of population. But the guy or the girl that's just getting into it, man, have fun. You got to have fun. It's hard enough to kill these things, especially here. And I would add too, you talk about your new people, and this comes up a lot. Here's a question for y'all. If you took what makes a successful turkey hunter, what percentage of that is made up by calling? Because I've got my answer, but we harp on calling a lot. We have calling competitions. We've got all these different calls, blah, blah, blah. I personally think, woodsmanship by far. Like that's number one. 75% of what makes or if not more, makes a successful turkey hunter is woodsmanship. I'd say probably 20%, 75 to 80% woodsmanship, 15 to 20%. Make sure my math's right here, Al, is calling, because you do hear some people, they're hammer. They give it time. You got to learn, like I said, you got to learn the cadence, how aggressive and things. You don't have to sound like somebody that's about to win a national championship. But just aren't learning a few different sounds. And then 5% is luck. You might have gotten blind luck that day, and by God, it's like winning the lottery, right? You'd rather be lucky than good. You can count there and kill that turkey and get lucky. That counts too. But I think we get too caught up on the calling, or we get too caught up on this pattern, or like y'all were saying, hunting out of a blind or doing this. You can't have a decoy. You can't have a decoy. You got a golf cart. That's cheating. All that's aside, man. I think it's woodsmanship, really understanding now how that turkey works, and the rest is not as important. What do y'all think?
I think you're spot on with that. I've hunted with a lot of turkey hunters, and I've been around a lot of turkey hunters that sound like sick cows, but they still kill turkeys. You know what I mean? I think one of the things that really stands out to me is learn how to sit still. Doesn't matter what pattern you wear. Just don't wear red, white, or blue. You know what I mean? Just wear a pattern, wear something. Hey, you want to wear all black out there? Wear all black, but sit still and know the woods. You don't have to be an expert caller. I'm not an expert caller. Yeah, I haven't killed a turkey, but I've had them come in. I've had a lot of jakes come in. You know what? It's so cool to see that. Being able to sit still and have hens and jakes pecking around you. You can't move. Hey, it's still a pretty cool experience, but I'm not winning any awards.
I agree with you as well, Rusty. The word woodsmanship, I think we may end up having a tailgate talk or an episode on that, because it's becoming a very popular word. I think woodsmanship is the flair word right now, and it's a great word. It describes a large percentage of what it takes to be successful in the outdoors. It does. I don't care if you're a backpacker or if you're a hunter. Woodsmanship is important. It will keep you alive or safe, and it's going to help you be successful. And I wish I could remember what podcast it was that I was listening to the last couple of days. It was either Fueled by the Outdoors, The Southern Outdoorsman, The Fall, or R2 Pursuits. One of those four had a turkey hunter on their podcast, and he was a state champion, I believe. And I'm glad you brought up barbecue earlier, Rusty. This gentleman, I can't remember his name, he said, turkey competitions to me are like barbecuing competitions. Barbecuing competitions, those guys are making food for the judges. They're not making food that the normal person wants to go buy and eat. It's not food that you're going to get at the joint. It is barbecue made specifically for those judges. And he said, I would much rather take a good woodsman out with me that's brand new to calling rather than hunt with a national champion, because the way they call on stage is very different than what turkeys may or truly want to hear out in the woods. As long as you have that cadence down, you can sound like a sick turkey, because there's sick turkeys out. Well, there's not sick turkeys out there, but there's turkeys out there. My wife and I, when we were scouting last weekend, I heard a turkey putt twice that when I heard it, it registered and they were close. But I thought to myself, I want to think that was a turkey, because we had fresh sign all around us as well. It's like, I know there's turkeys here. We're in turkey sign. I think that was a putt, but that didn't sound like a putt. And we walked another 5 yards and they blew out. It was a turkey. And I've heard hundreds of turkeys, but that turkey that putted, it was the way it spoke, and maybe the way it had its head turned, and they were in a whole bunch of mountain laurel and brush, and just the way that tone came across to me and I interpreted it. I wanted to think that it was a turkey, but my mind was telling me that it wasn't. And it 100% was. It certainly was not a sound that was going to win on the stage.
Yeah, well, I mean, you hear enough turkeys. I mean, she hits a bad note. He hit, no different than we talk. Sometimes I'll say something. Somebody look, dude, you're going through puberty again. Because your voice creaks or this. They're the same way. So you don't have to hit those. And there are some callers that are just flat out turkey killers. They're just good on stage too. So I just think we harp sometimes on that. I would tell new people, or people go, man, I've been trying to kill a turkey for a little while. Practice your calling. I mean, if you're going to go mouth call, which I like, not everybody likes, get you a couple of different kinds, cuts. Do some research on what the different cuts are. The less number of reeds, the easier it is to blow. The more the reeds, the harder it is to blow. There's prophylactic versus rubber. I mean, so research that. Try some different ones. There's gonna be some you like, some you don't like. You can trim up I can't think of the proper term. Not the reed or the metal, but the actual piece that goes in your mouth. This what I'm holding up, y'all can't see it, is red. You can trim that part to fit your mouth better. Practice your box call, whatever it is. And if you're single, it helps. If you're married, it probably doesn't go well for the marriage to practice turkey call. And I was on the front porch the other night and had a slate call out, and I was just practicing, right? And finally I got a text of shut up. And I came inside. She goes, I didn't know if you were downstairs or upstairs, but I know if you want to stay here, you need to be quiet. I said, yes, ma'am. So you get quiet. So, but practice with it, get that down.
Rusty, my fellow turkey hunter right now, he sent me a message yesterday. He said, I've been down here playing with my calls and my wife just hollered at me from upstairs. Shut the F up.
Yep. I remember when mouth calls were first coming out, we drove to Louisiana to see some relatives, and my daddy bought one. And it was an 8.5 hour trip out there. 8.5 hours. And back. And my mom, how she stayed, how she is, she didn't kill him then. I don't know, but that's how you learn. You got to practice. No different than baseball or anything else. Practice with it. These new mapping programs we have on our phones are really good. To learn the topography. If you want to be a better, woodsman, knowing how the lay of the land is, even if you've never set foot on it, seeing where drainages are, seeing where openings are. That turkey story I told, I didn't know that food plot was there. I saw it on my phone. And I was like, it was a little dot, and I knew what was around. I was like, this is why he's here. So that can help out tremendously, knowing that.
That's a great point, Rusty.
And I'm just trying to think.
Digging in there and finding those little micro benches. If you don't zoom into an area and really start picking that stuff apart, you have no idea that little micro bench is sitting on the side of that canyon wall.
The story earlier with the fence, knowing that part, and just know, like your new guy or new people listen, you're gonna fail, man. It's okay. Learn something from it. Be prepared to be humble. I'll tell you something that really changed. We're talking about adding things, right? I've got the Badlands turkey vest, and I added the bladder to it last year. That is amazing. That's right up there with adding, like a really good shotgun shell. I'm not listening to the crinkling water bottles anymore, right? They're not falling out of my vest. And that was a pet peeve of mine, but that was the only way we had water. So if I have an owl sitting over there and I'm like, you got to be quiet. Well, I'm thirsty. You got to drink quiet, right? But now with the bladder, it just stays there, and it's so much quieter. So,
little tip for the bladder, Rusty. If you're not already doing this, and for anybody listening, here's a water bladder tip, because sloshing water drives me insane. I don't care if it's in a disposable water bottle, if it's in a Nalgene bottle, or if it is in your we'll call it a Camelback. that is the term that everybody knows and understands. So when I say water blotter, I'm referencing that Camelback style. When you fill up your bladder, turn it upside down so the air void is by your feed hose, and then suck all of the air out of that bladder all through the hose until you actually have water, and then let go of that bite valve and flip your bladder back up, and you have just pulled all of the air out of that bladder, and it will not make a noise no matter what level of water you have in that bladder throughout your hunt.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I do the same thing. Drives me nuts
That's a little woodsman's tip there, Rusty.
Put that on your list.
Well, and that's the great thing about this podcast, is the tips, right? You don't have something from
it's just the
every little
tip,
snippet,
but it's a very good tip.
That's right. It's just the tip. You mean your podcast on flying, your cooler podcast, right? I've never flown. I've never gone where that to have to, fly meat back. I'm sitting there enthralled because I don't know those things, right? And you say how long I've been doing or successful I've been. I mean, I've never done that. So I want to learn more. I mean, I talked to Al a lot about like flying with a gun. We don't know anything about the tag system here in the Southeast because we don't have one like that. So learning those tidbits, going back to what we first talked about, learning stuff from people with experience, those type things go too. It's not just, hey, go sit here, the turkey's here, the deer's here. Those type tidbits, because people have seen it, pay off huge, to the point of I drop my phone a lot this deer season. I get to deer hunt a lot, and to shoot a lot of those, drop my phone a lot. Like dropped it one night looking for a deer by a creek, and it fell under leaves. Thing died. The volume was turned off, so we called it. It rang. It wasn't on silent anymore. And so I found this thing, and can't say this.
The Tether.
It's a Rogue Fishing Company.
Yep.
I don't know if we can say ads or no free ads or whatever, but this thing for $19.95, dude, I love this thing.
Rusty, I use that in my kayak when I'm fishing, and I use it when I'm up in a tree saddle hunting.
Because you don't have to worry, right? If you miss your pocket, whatever, it just hangs.
That's correct.
I started using it.
And I think they have the Rogue 3.0 out right now.
What's the difference?
I really believe it's just the size of the stretchable
it's
attachment mechanism for the larger phones. So for listeners out there, Rusty brought up a great piece of kit. I am a huge fan of it. It is the Rogue Fishing phone tether, and they have a 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. I don't know if they still sell the 1.0. We'll put the link in the description of this episode. Rogue Fishing Equipment, their phone tether. Great piece of kit.
It is so simple, right? It's like the mousetrap. Like, God, why didn't I think of that? I mean, there's nothing to it. I started using it when I mow the grass and stuff because you got my pods in to listen to something while listen to Sprocket Chubbs podcast while I'm mowing the grass. I don't have to worry about losing my phone anymore. It's in my pocket, is in between my legs on the seat. It's sitting here now. It's tethered to me. So this thing, why I didn't have it a long time ago, I don't know. Talking about saving money and stuff. If you're getting into this, you're looking for something, even if you're on a budget, spend the $20. So
I'm looking it up right now. On their website, they only advertise the 3.0 now. It is roguefishing.com. That's spelled ROGUE fishing.com. It is $19.99. They have, for the cords, they have green, red, rust, lemon lime, rogue black, blue, and pink.
While we're, I guess, talking gear, I know Badlands does stuff. I think they're title sponsor here. I do have their vest. I used it last year, was my first year with it, I think. And I've used different vests. It's shorter, it's tighter, so you don't have a lot of bulk hanging. So if you are having to walk a lot, I think it cuts down on your weight, actually cuts down on your profile. So if, like turkeys around here, sometimes you got to crawl to get into areas to get to them, so you don't have a lot of excess. You can do the bladder. It's not the vest with the most pockets. Like there's not a specific compartment for strikers and things. But I mean, at some point, how many strikers do you need?
My Badlands vest has a striker pocket.
Maybe.
When you don that, on the right side, there's an exterior zipper pocket, and it has little elastic sleeves in it. That's not for extra shells, Rusty. That's for your strikers.
Because I put extra shells in there. I need extra shells, not strikers.
Well,
so
He's
I
putting
am.
beef sticks in
I have the same vest, Rusty.
Yes.
The Badlands vest. Yeah, I'm a Badlands fan, so you can say that I'm just prefer Badlands, but I've had 4 different turkey vests and it's been my favorite. My one thing that I'm disappointed with Badlands on is it does not have any type of an orange flag or anything like that. And
I'm with you.
I wish that
I-
it did.
So to add to that, right? I got away. You shoot a turkey. I shot it. Let's say Al had somebody with him that time that was actually good at calling turkeys, and let's say he had been able to kill a turkey that time. A lot of people don't put the turkey in the pouch, right? That holds other stuff, be it extra box collars. Maybe you've got water bottles. So I went to a turkey tote. And I can't remember where I got the thing, but you can Google turkey totes, and this is made out of paracord. And basically, it loops around the turkey's head, it loops around the turkey's feet, and you throw it over your shoulder. And I found that to be a much more comfortable way to carry a turkey out versus having it in my backpack or in my vest.
Rusty, I saw that on YouTube on a channel Wednesday night watching turkey videos with Nick. A guy had that turkey tote. I'd never seen it before. I've seen folks use different types of rope or cord or whatnot to sling their turkeys. That was a really, really good idea.
It is, it's a young girl. I heard her on a podcast. She's like middle school, high school. Totes, Totes by Taylor. She's on Facebook. I don't know if she has a website or whatever, but she makes these in different colors and everything. And she's not the only one, but they had talked really well about her. So that's where I bought my turkey tote out.
Well, we'll drop her link in the.
She does. Cuz Strickland does a. I'm trying to remember all this now. He does a veterans hunt in Florida when Florida season opens every year, and I think she makes or has made in the past. I don't know if she still does it. Totes for all the veterans there, like Apex Ammo donates a lot of stuff to them there for that hunt. So that's how I heard about it.
I'd like to find out what her name is.
If you go on Facebook and type in Totes by Taylor, got her email address and everything.
We'll definitely check that out.
Populated straight away.
I mean, it is the way to go to carry your turkey out versus in the vest or something like that. Man, it just throws it over your shoulder. You just got to kind of figure out how to do one end to each other end, but it works great.
I can tell everybody that listens to this right now, I am going to buy a turkey tote from Taylor. Taylor, if you listen to this ever, thank you very much. I love what you're doing. I'm buying one of your totes. I'm going to have it in the woods here in a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, great girl. Send it to you. I think she puts a little thank you note and stuff in there. So I just realized that's been in my vest with blood on it. So
she's a killer.
And would know that. Huh?
She's a killer.
Yeah, she goes around killing these. I think Mississippi, maybe somewhere in the South.
Excellent. Thanks for
curious.
sharing. Thanks for sharing Taylor's totes or totes. Taylor.
There's different companies that make them. Some of them, they'll even have like a piece of leather, depending on what you want to spend. But this thing here, as far as like what's in my vest that I make sure is always there, it's going to be in there. It doesn't take up much room. It's very, very small. It goes in the bottom because, I'm not going to pull it out first. Obviously, you got to kill the turkey first. But that, and then, odds and ends, a really good pair of snips, clippers, little handheld things. I tell people, get you a good pair, something that's going to last you, that's going to be able to cut through some things. Here we got so much. We don't have snow, so we don't ever have snow kill off or anything, briars. Whether I'm trying to be comfortable, where I'm trying to make it comfortable for Al, maybe we find a spot to set up and we need to add some foliage to it. I can go clip things real quick. I keep those in there. I don't think a lot of people use those. And then here as well, in our part of the world, thermocell. Have your thermocell where you know where it is. And if you don't know what a thermocell is, that probably means you live in a part of the country where you don't have bugs. So be thankful. And
if you're going to Georgia, pack your thermocell.
Yeah, and have an extra butane cartridge or two, an insect pad, right?
Yes.
Because you don't want to run out. But have those, and then everything. It's kind of, some people like pot calls or slate calls or whatever. Some like box. That's all personal preference. To that point. But I think a few little odds and ends is that I've got a.
I'm not taking my thermocell next weekend on our scouting trip. We're still in March and the weather's pretty cold still. We're looking at still having 30 in the 30s at night. However, in April on that pack-in trip, I will have my thermocell 100%.
Well, see here, it was 31, and this time last week it was in the 80s, but it got up to 71. So if you want the weather to change, just wait a few hours. It's gonna fluctuate, to have that. But then, like I said, have a few locator calls. I've got an owl hooter that I've had since I was, 15, 14. How I kept up with this thing over time. It's a little bulky, but I still keep it. And then a good crow call and a luck. So, everybody's a little different. Everybody does a turkey vest dump now. You don't have to, like you were saying earlier, Sprocket, you don't have to spend a ton of money.
No.
You can do it on a budget. Main thing is to go out and have fun. Go to a place that you think, or at least hope, our turkeys are there. If there's no turkeys that's ever being seen there, probably not a good place to go to help your morale. So go to a place where there are turkeys.
Rusty, you were talking about clippers. My favorite brand of clipper is Fisker. Go to Lowe's or Home Depot and they always carry Fisker. They're black and orange. I like that as well because it's literally has hunter orange on it. So if you drop them, they're easier to find.
I use a brand called Easy Cut. I've had them forever. Got a little pouch that comes with it. I have gotten to where, like, if I snip something for me or somebody else, or especially for me, I lay it all in one place. I try not to get sporadic about where I put it. So, it's all easier to find, because you made a good point of you're going to lose something. Over the years, if you want to see where I went, just look for the strikers that fell out of my pocket, or a mouth call that fell here. You can probably find out where a lot more of those on the ground than empty turkey shotgun shells.
Mouth calls. Yep. Toting your mouth calls around. I've always used the little pockets that are on the turkey vest for my mouth calls. Phelps Game Calls makes their diaphragm pouches for elk hunters. And that's what I'm using this year. I don't know why I haven't used it for my turkey calls in the past, because I use it when I'm elk hunting. And for some reason in my mind, that diaphragm pouch for me was only used when I was elk hunting. And it dawned on me preparing for this year's turkey adventure, why am I not using my Phelps diaphragm pouch for my turkey calls? I'm on a backcountry hunt. I am calling to a big game animal. Why would I not want my different diaphragms hanging right here in front of my chest? I'm not going to lose them. If I don't lose them on a backcountry elk hunt, how am I going to lose them on a backcountry turkey hunt, or on a day turkey hunt for that matter? So those diaphragm pouches that are on a little cord that hang around your neck. The other thing that I like about it is when I keep my diaphragms, or when I have kept them in my turkey vest, I've always kept them in the little containers, the little plastic containers. Well, what does that do? That holds in all the moisture. When I have them in my, and it rattles. When I have one that holds multiple calls in it. So I'll try to stuff as many as I can in there. With that pouch, they're drying out a little bit. You're not retaining all that nasty moisture within those little plastic containers.
To each his own.
I
like the little plastic pouch. It's easier to get to for me.
See, Al, you use the little plastic things that come in?
I use a little plastic thing. I like it when it grows a little bit of mold, and I get in there and I start growing a little terrarium, But no, I like the little.
Everybody likes penicillin.
I don't care if it rattles around. I know that I've got a raspy hen here. I've got a young hen or a Jake, and I know exactly where it is, and I can just pull it out, put it in, call, and I just put it right back in there. Now, when I get back home, I'll pop it open. I'll let it dry out. But when I'm hunting, I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
See, and those little plastic things in my opinion, I don't know why they come in there. It's save me 50 cents. Don't put the little plastic thing in there. I've got it's a little call caddy. I think this one's got Realtree on it. I've had for a while. They're a little rubber. They snap to. It's like a little coin purse that goes around my neck. I've got, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 that go in there. And the diaphragms are different colors, so I can see them. But I practice with them enough to kind of understand, this one's going to go soft, this one's going to go higher, this one's going to do raspy. So I know what I'm looking at. And I even, I'm looking at 3 right now that are yellow. They're like, oh, which one is that? That's dark. Or it's low light. I took a Sharpie and I marked on the bottom of one. I got a different mark. I know that mark means I can purr with this one better. This mark means I can do that. It stays around my neck. I can just reach in or I open it and I spit it back in there. It's probably not the most hygienic. I probably need to rinse it and wash it out at some point. But that's what I do. I never keep them in a vest because I'll lose them and rattle. So it's funny, like you said, to each his own, right?
Yeah.
As long as you're keeping up with it, because these things are not cheap anymore. I do put my mouth calls in the freezer at the end of the season. I do that now to hopefully make them last longer. Have you heard, or do y'all do this? Put your mouth calls in Listerine.
I have not done that yet, but it's very popular and I'm probably going to.
So, it's like anything else, right? You Google it and opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got. And you see some people, oh no, Listerine tears the latex up and this and that. You got to mix with water. One dude was like, no, you mix a little bleach. And I'm like, whoa, dude, what are you trying to kill? So I didn't know. I put mine in some Listerine before. I've never had an issue with it. I do put mine in the freezer. I don't put toothpicks or anything between the reeds to keep them separated. For me, it's too cumbersome trying to take them in and out and everything. I stick them in my mouth and wet it and blow it and pop them apart that way. And it seems to work all right. I think the freezing, it helps keep them, especially if there's any bacteria on the end of season, put it in the freezer should kill it. I don't keep my box call on my vest. The box call I have is a little longer. It's not a boat paddle type deal, but it's just a little longer. And I got a leather holster for it. So it goes on the side if I think I'm going to use it. Sometimes, you know what, I may, because I'm in the golf cart, I may leave it there. I got it on my side, and that frees up that pocket for something else, or maybe nothing. The older I get, I realize just because I have the pocket means I don't need it. What's that?
You got a leather holster for your box call. I love it.
I want to go back real quick before we get too far away from this. Just briefly about diaphragm calls. And you were talking about how Nick's been practicing and his wife is like, shut up. You know what? To everybody everybody started somewhere. And you're not going to be a champion turkey caller probably for a long time after
I never will be.
No, what I'm getting at is you're going to sound horrible. I'm going to pick on my dad a little bit here. When my dad was first practicing with it, I had no diaphragm calls had just come out. And my dad popped one in one day. And my brother and I were walking around the house and my dad started clucking on this. Well, he was trying to cluck. And my dog was just following him around, ears perked. And I thought something was wrong with my dad. I did. I thought he was sick and he's going around and finally he pops it out. He goes, now I'm practicing with my turkey call. And I started laughing because I'm like, I thought you were dying. I did the same thing when I tried it. You got to start getting a feel for it. The back of your palate is different than the next person and you've got to adjust. And once you start doing it and you get that feel for it, it's like riding a bike, but it takes a lot of practice. So
and not the day before season, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Y'all, I hear y'all talk all the time about, like Alan, Sprocket, whatever government agency calls you right now, Sprocket, CIA, whatever. They call y'all, but you were talking about shooting arrows, right? Like you practice, you shoot, you shoot. It's a daily thing, or at least, a couple of weeks, months before season starts. I think a lot of people wait. And I used to be guilty of this, starting like right before season. So getting back into, of what this sound can do. And I think we focus sometimes more on how loud we can get. We want to be able to, that bird to hear us afar off, but we forget about how well they can hear. So I really practice on the soft stuff. Because turkeys, are really soft. If I get his attention way off, I know he's there. I'm that's half the battle. But I practice a lot of softer stuff. Even as practice, like if you're walking through some leaves, turkeys make noise. Those softer things. A tube call has gotten popular again. I grew up with those. It was back when we had cameras, that did 35 millimeter film. All those tubes that came in, people would cut holes and put a piece of rubber glove over. So a tube call has gotten popular again. I use one of those. It's more located far out. I'm still practicing with it. I don't think I'll ever sound like I want to sound, but is it up to me to determine what it should sound like or up to him when he's being cocky and arrogant, let him decide. But the diaphragm is the hardest out of everything, I think, to learn how to do.
It's the hardest, but it's the most satisfying too. And I tell you, if you're surrounded by turkey, you're not getting a box call out. You're not moving your hands because it's a dead giveaway. I would highly recommend, I'm not saying you have to, but highly recommend learning how to, even if it's just one diaphragm call, just if you can cluck on it, if you can purr, figure out what works for you. And there you go.
if you can learn how to yelp and purr with a diaphragm, you will be one step further into your turkey success range.
Oh, definitely. And get something, that get a 2-reed, a bat wing or something, just a basic cut. You can Google different cuts in turkey, and they'll tell you they'll tell you what the cuts do. But just a 2-reed works well. It's not hard to blow. It's not take a lot of air. So if you're built like me and Chubbs here, and you just walked a bunch, and all of a sudden you hear him, you get excited. You're not like out of breath trying to blow on the thing. So 2 reeds blow a lot easier than these multi-reed deals, especially to start. But and they make them in smaller frames, right? Kids can use them, ladies can use them. So as women, God, these ladies that are first-time hunters that are going that I was talking about, get one that fits your mouth. You can trim these things back easy too, and just practice. Probably practice away from other people because they get tired of hearing it. But practice. The same with your box call. Keep chalk with it. Practice. You can do a lot with that. Chubbs, you were talking about like keeping your hand. It's so funny you say that, right? But yet most people throw a mouth call in. First thing they do is they throw their hand up beside their mouth. So they still threw their hand up, right? So practice probably not moving your hand every time. And you'll get there. You'll be able to make whistles and kikis and kiki runs and all that other stuff with them.
You talk about bringing your hands to your face and not thinking about some of those, I'm going to call them micro movements when you're set up and you think a bird's coming in, right? I had a conversation with Nick the other night. It may have been this, in fact, it was last Wednesday. We were watching YouTube videos and we were watching setups and what the shooter was doing or not doing and how we were going to interact together when I was sitting 20 yards behind him. I talked to him about his headgear. I love wearing a ball cap when I hunt. In fact, I love wearing a ball cap all the time. I will often take my ball cap off once I'm set up and I think a bird is coming in on me, because I'm a firm believer that is a satellite dish on top of my head that I forget that I have. So when I turn my head, that's just an extension from my face that a turkey can, for all you turkey hunters out there that love wearing ball caps that I do, consciously look at that extension on the top of your head when you're moving your head around. And I don't like to move. I really try to use just my eyeballs as much as I can when I'm sitting against a tree, especially if I have a tom talking to me. I will take that ball cap off and use a hood that I wear. I prefer to have some type of a garment on, whether it's a base layer or an outer layer that has a hood on it. I can pull that hood up over my head to cover my noggin if I'm not wearing some type of a little camouflage beanie. I do. I take my ball cap off a lot of the time because I get so anal about my movement when I'm turkey hunting. I worry about the bill of my hat moving around, and they can pick that off, especially when they get in close. I like to turkey hunt alone, so they're pinpointing your location. If you want to try to get a bird to come in under 40 yards when you're hunting by yourself, that can get really challenging because especially if you're hunting open timber, they can see so far through that open timber. They're not seeing another bird.
Yes. And I think that's a great point, right? People sometimes, they connotate turkeys like deer. So the way a deer hears, how its ears move and how it locates is different than a turkey's. And so a deer is trying to zone in on you. That turkey knows where you're at. It knows what tree you're at. If you keep yelping and he keeps gobbling, he's still coming. He knows exactly where. So you definitely have to be still. I try to, whether I'm by myself or I have people with me, we'll set up in the shade. The shade helps give some concealment.
Yes, it does.
Obviously, it's never perfect, right? It's never, ever perfect, but have a tree wider than the person. That helps, break up that outline. Try to have some kind of foliage around. If I've got a minute, I'm going to cut, especially as spring green up comes more, I'm going to cut some things and throw it around somebody just to help break them up. If I have somebody with me, I'm probably not going to sit right behind, especially if they're a little bit more experienced, because I don't want him looking for me. If I have to say anything else, I'll be off to the side or behind. If I have to sit right there with them, that's different. But try to break all that outline up. Use the shade. First thing in the morning.
Sit behind a log or a downfall.
Here in our humidity is so high. The dew, is so heavy. I mean, Al, you saw that even on cold mornings. The dew is so heavy. So they're going to be out in the sun first. They don't like to get their feathers wet. So they're going to be in shorter grass. Now they will follow that sun. You can see them in an open field. As the sun starts to rise more, they will go out where that sun is more. because they want to be warm, and that's where the sun is drying the dew off. So let him be in the sun. I'm going to be in the shade. If I can have the sun in his eyes, anything to give me those little bit of, extra seconds, or I can get away with something else. I also, if we're walking, let's say we're walking a logging road, and it's like, hey man, let's see if we can find one. I'm going to say, let's step to the side, right? We're not just going to stand in the middle of a road, or stand in the middle of a food plot and yelp off or crow call or something, because Murphy's Law says he's going to be 30 yards. And I want to be set up where if I have to sit down, I can sit down quick. And I can sit you down or push you down quick, right? So you have to be ready. Now, doesn't really happen like that a lot, but if you get caught literally with your pants down that way, you got to be set up, because you don't know where he is, especially if you're being quiet, kind of walk through like, we walked all that. Every time we'll say, let's stop off to the side of this road in case he's down here. We got to be ready for it.
Yeah.
Something that's underrated that's come around a little bit more. Alan, I don't think we had it when you were there, the turkey chair. I don't think I had one when you came, did I?
No, I mean, they've been around a while. You and I were running and gunning just about every day.
Yeah.
I mean, we were moving.
We were walking.
We the only time we sat down, and I'm gonna tell this story over the top of your turkey chair real quick, just due to the fact that it's gonna turn everything of what Rusty just said opposite. So we went out. We were coming back from our morning hunt. We had to get lunch. We had a timed lunch. We had a meeting back at the house, and we had to be back there for photos or something. And as we drove by that one open field, that big Tom was down there in the shade of that oak tree, surrounded by hens. And we said, you know what? Rusty said, when we come back, we're going to check and make sure and see if he's still there. Now, we were going to be gone 2 hours. Well, let's see if it happens. Sure enough, we drove back. He was still there. Had 15, 20 turkeys around him. So we're going to get in here. We're going to get into a spot. Well, we tried to get in near some trees. There was no shot. It was all angled down in a ravine. So we had to get out in the goldenrod and the briars on the edge of that field, trim a little edge and just sit down in it and be uncomfortable. But again, it was, okay, here's my laneway. And what I want to point out with this was I had I had your shotgun on my knee, aiming in the direction of where I knew that I was planning where that turkey was going to come. That was the only shot opportunity I was going to have. I had a 15-degree, way I could swing that shotgun, but it was going to be that way. I wasn't going to pick it up and move it. So it was sitting on my knee. Mitchell last time talked about sometimes these toms will get surrounded by jakes, and those jakes will bully that tom and he won't be able to move. Well, we couldn't tell what was going on down there, but that tom was not moving. But that jake came speeding up that hill faster than any turkey I've ever seen, except for when he's running away. And I had already talked with Rusty about it. I told him I wasn't interested in shooting a jake, even if it was my first turkey. I wanted to shoot a mature tom. So we got there, and I'm not going to lie, I had the bead on his head because I wanted to get ready. It was a hunting scenario, and I'm sitting there, and he knew right where we were. We were in the wide open though, and he's just trying to figure it out. And he stopped at 30 yards and just looking. And then he turned around, and you let out a cluck or something, and he turned around and he waited another 10, 15 seconds, and then he didn't like it, and he just took right back off down there. But the point being is, yeah, I had the opportunity to shoot a jake. I didn't. We were in the wide open. I mean, you can still hunt turkeys in any scenario. You can be behind a log. You can be by a tree. You can be on the edge of a field if you want. Now, your chances drop considerably because you're out there, and your movement is definitely more, is shown a lot more. But that jake still came up there, and if we had that on video, that would have been cool, because he was just redhead, nice beard, and just broadside, just looking at us. So it was just really cool.
He did have that redhead there.
Yeah. And then we literally, when he took off down the hill, we knew our hunt was over, and we popped up and we looked down. Sure enough, that tom was still down there. So we ended up going around, what was that, about a 12 to 15 acre field probably?
No, if you do the whole thing, it's close to like 200.
Well, we didn't go 200. I know that.
I didn't show you the whole field.
We went around
a little bit of it.
Yeah, Rusty took me around. We were on foot and we walked around this field. We covered probably 5.5, 6 miles around. and we stopped in different pockets of tree line to see if there were any turkeys there. So, hey, if there's turkeys there, we don't have to go all the way around to get him. Well, by the time we got all the way around to where he was, they had all disappeared. They spotted us moving or something and took off. But it was a cool hunt. And I wasn't disappointed that I didn't shoot a turkey. It was such a cool experience to have them around, and just goes to show you, man, you can hunt that whole way and still be what you think is protected by the pines and the scrub brush and everything like that. And man, that one turkey sees you, that's it. They're all gone.
They can see it. And yeah, because I told you, we went on the other end of the field, and I said, hold tight, I'm going to climb the center pivot, right? That's what we call them. I don't know what y'all call them, you know, but the irrigator that sits, it makes just a circle. And I was on the top of it, so I could see in these little dips in the field. There's not a lot of topography there, but there are some where turkeys can hide. But yeah, and those field turkeys, man, they if you hear the term field turkey, it's a different breed. It is like the devil incarnate and how they act. If you don't have religion, go try to kill a field turkey. He'll make you get it and lose it, because he flies down every day. Same field, Al. You know, quick story. Same field after y'all left. A few weeks later, opposite end of the field, turkeys flew down out of the roost to the field. Right, this field, it is a big field. It's 180, 200 acres, and it's surrounded by some big trees on the east and west side, south side, some plant pines. The north side is an old pecan orchard. There's that word, pecan. It's probably 100 yards wide and a state highway, a rural highway. They had flown down in the field, out there doing what they do, right? Being turkeys. That nothing I was doing was going to bring them over there. I knew that. So they started migrating toward the southern end of the field. So I make a big loop, walk all the way around, and I'm just going to get in front of them. So to me, part of turkey hunting, especially that, is I'm just trying to figure out where he wants to be. And if I can be in between him and where he wants to be, I'm going to up my odds. Every time I thought I was with, and there was 2 birds, there were 2 long beards, and I don't know, half a dozen, maybe 10 or so hens with them at times. Every time I got to where I thought they wanted to be, they were out in the field, or they'd be closer to the edge where I was, but I wasn't there. It was back and forth all day. And finally, and it's gotten, I mean, that what, you know, this got up to be 3 o'clock this afternoon, and I've been out this field by myself all day, and it's 1st of May. And so it's hot. 2 longbeards and 1 hen left. She's dusting. They're probably 80 yards off. I'm in the shade. I'm thinking this is probably where they want to go. They tend to go this way and roost. And she makes a noise, a putt, a purr, and evidently in turkey, that meant leave me the hell alone. And they walk off. And I'm like, oh, this is it. But they walk up the edge of the pecan orchard, away from me. She walks toward me, and I'm like, oh wait, I can cut them off. I can get in front of them, right? So as they get far enough to where they can't see me, they're gonna bother me, she comes up, gets in the woods, pick my stuff up. I run as fast as my chubby little butt will go to the highway, and I run as fast as down there. Again, it's thing got 3:30, 4 o'clock now. I know they're headed toward wherever they're going to roost, and all it is this long field along the edge of the pecan orchard. I'm going to get on the south, where basically they flew down that morning. And I'm going to, if you want to call it ambush, I don't care. I've been out there all day. I was about to kill this turkey. I know what they're going to do. I set up. I want to put a decoy out. I'm waiting. I got a mouth call in my mouth in case I need it. And they're going to come, right? And I'm waiting. They'll be here because I got way in front of them. There's no way they saw me. And I think I hear a guy's voice. Like, I don't know. I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, that can't be right. And then I hear a 4-wheeler. The guy that farms the field, that leases that land to farm the field, runs his 4-wheeler by in front of me, has no idea I'm there. He's checking his cotton that he planted on his phone. Turkeys fly everywhere, and I'm just sitting there. And there's where, you know, I said earlier, it's 75% hunting, you know, woodsmanship and calling, and that 5% luck. That luck is what cost me, because that guy. And I was done. I was mad. And as far as I know, those turkeys could die from old age and go to someplace hot, because I don't care about those 2 anymore right now. I hope they died of other reasons.
I hope they died. Sometimes I hope they died of dysentery.
I hope they did.
Yeah.
But
be miserable on your way out.
Field turkeys, and then we talked earlier about names. If somebody does give a turkey a name, it means they have messed with it a lot. And those tend to be the hardest. They've upset somebody, have been pressured enough. And these, I don't want to say probably with the adjectives I call those 2 that day, but they were one of the ones was one out there, Al, when you and I went a few weeks before that.
I've never heard anybody name a turkey, but I could understand why they would in that situation.
Yes, yeah. You name a turkey, and it's changed. The person's demeanor about it is not a good name. It's not a nice name.
When we were coming out, and I want to leave everybody with this story because it's funny, and you gotta, all three of us I think have just we're lighthearted. We like to have a good time. We like to laugh. And when Rusty was you were my first guide ever, and we were the first probably half hour to an hour we're feeling each other out, trying to figure out, okay,
Is that on camera?
yeah, not on camera.
Easy now.
We're trying to understand, how can he take a joke? And we quickly figured out we could bust each other's chops pretty good.
This is before OnlyFans, right?
Yeah, that's before.
Yeah. Okay.
This encouraged him for OnlyFans.
Yes. Yeah, this is free fans.
So as we get done with this turkey loop, we realize that we're not killing a turkey here today. We're coming out, and Rusty points down, and there's a shed snake skin about 3 feet long sitting there. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. And Rusty kind of looks at me and he goes, it's pretty cool. He goes, the thing is, though, you can't see the snake that shed it. And I'm looking around going, I never thought about that. So the next morning, we went out hunting, and we went to a different spot.
Oh, by the way, I have snake boots on because I come prepared. Mr. California here did not. He had like some little hiking boots on.
I had my Solomons on. So I'm coming out, and I actually had a little bit more durable boot, and I was wearing the Master Gators, and I'm thinking, this is great. I'm going to keep my shoelaces dry and everything. And I'm coming out, and he looks down, and he's okay. And he walks ahead of me, and we get to this spot, and it's little, what do you call them? I mean, they're not benches. What do you guys call them out there with all the water in them? Little steps.
It was an old logging road where they had just made ruts and everything, and it had retained water.
It's like little steps along the way that
Yes.
they've pooled with water. Well, he's walking ahead of me. He's the guide. I'm going to let him go. And I see a movement out of the corner of my eye go under a bush. He turns around and goes, you see that? I said, yeah, what was that? He goes, water moccasin. I take a step back, and I'm like, really? And he's like, oh yeah. And he looks down at my shoes, and he goes, yeah, you're not wearing snake boots. You want me to keep leading? Yes, I do. You're the guide. You're the expert. So he starts walking. Well, we get another 2 pools away, and another water moccasin goes around, and I'm thankful, okay. He's like, you know what? We're going to keep running into water moccasins going this way. Why don't we cut around this way so there's less water? Okay, that's perfect. He doesn't get through the woods. He doesn't get 20 feet through the woods, and he stops. He goes, don't move. Look down. Just look over. There is a solid, and I'm talking the size of my forearm, water moccasin just laying there, 3 feet long, facing away from us. Now, I have no experience with water moccasins. So he leans over and he goes, you want me to pull his tail and get him to turn back so you can get a picture of him? And I, without hesitation, no, I'm good. I'm just going to lean over. I've got a long zoom lens on my camera. I took some pictures of this water moccasin. And while we had enough time for Rusty to tell me that a water moccasin, if you disturb it near its tail, it will automatically make a 180 and come after you. He said, don't mess with them. There's no point in going through the woods this way. Let's go around the other way. And we had a little bit of laughter about that and everything. But I tell you what, I'll be bringing snake boots the next time I come to Georgia. That's for sure.
They are a very aggressive snake.
I was disappointed. We didn't. There could be a turkey up there, and I was like, I don't care. We've seen 3 water moccasins within 20 yards of each other, and I don't have snake boots on, and you're not killing them. So, but then from then on, every time I look behind me, wherever we're walking, Al is close. Al is trying to keep like on my back right behind me. And I was like, well, you know what? If you're not around these things, I didn't play a trick. I didn't pull out a snake skin or try to find a stick or something. But yeah, snake boots. If you hunt around snakes, I'd invest in a pair. You trust that they work. I hope I never have to find out. I've come close before, but having Al that day reminded me I was glad I had my snake boots on.
I'll tell you what, I was glad you had your snake boots on too. I love talking to the both of you, especially when we're talking turkey hunting or any hunting.
It's been a good chat.
Full episode of some great tips, some great gear.
Yes, gentlemen. Thank you very much. thank you very much for a great episode. This was a lot of fun. I'd like to share the hunt with you at some point, Rusty. Maybe we can have a threesome in the spring and actually get Chubbs on a turkey.
Actually get him on a turkey. Well,
Yeah.
I'm walking to death now, that golf cart. So
Well, I've been on many turkeys. We got to get it on a mature tom. That's the big thing. I've had a lot of Jakes. We got to get that tom in there. So let's do it.
And that's why I put that in there. I think, when y'all came, there were people that, not you, but there were other people that had expectations that you go out and boom, it's done. It's done. It's done. And you were, look, man, these species of birds are just, they're hard. They're not a Rio and they're not a Merriam and all this. And I'm not saying those are super easy, but these here, you saw it. They have their own mind. They get hunted. Not even if they get hunted, it's just, they're just peculiar.
I think, for me, I've harvested Merriams and Easterns. I've hunted Rios, and for me, I think the Easterns have been the most challenging. That's just my experience. I know there's people out there that disagree, but that's my experience.
Well, that's why I was saying, how I said it. Somebody I'd heard on another podcast, a guy, I can't tell you what's the hardest turkey because it depends on the day, right? The mood he is or isn't in. But as far as species, it's the Southeastern. He's just different, and it shows. But God, it's hot. But damn, if it ain't fun. So let's torture ourselves, right?
Rusty, it's been a pleasure having you on. I can't wait to have you on.
Brother. Anytime. My agent will be in touch with the fee, because it's not like I get to see the money I make, right? She gets to see it. Well, now I got to go celebrate it is my people's day. So I got to go celebrate my people's day.
If I ever turkey hunt with Rusty, I'm gonna think that I'm with a different person because I'm sure he doesn't talk when he's turkey hunting. It's gonna be a very different experience. Who is this guy?
Yeah, I'm quiet and then I cuss when things don't go right.
Gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I'm really glad that we had the chance to record this. Good luck out there in the next few weeks when you guys get out there and get in the woods. And I look forward to hearing some more stories.
Appreciate y'all, man. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Here's where Sprocket and Chubbs need your help. If you do like the podcast, or don't, please leave us a review on the platform where you listen. Also, be sure to subscribe so that you will be notified when we launch each new episode or tailgate talk. More than anything, Sprocket and Chubbs want to thank you for your continued support.